Even though I've been making videos for a while now, I've never really talked about love and romance related topics on this channel before. I guess that's probably because love is so omnipresent in pop culture that I don't really see much significance in it most of the time. There's basically some sort of romance in almost every movie and show, so it's often just obligatory and stale to me. But this oversaturation of love only makes it more impressive if movies and shows are able to make love interesting again. And to cut to the chase, Blade Runner 2049 is exactly that kind of movie. The relationship between the replicant K and the hologram Joy is my favorite aspect of the film, because it's the perfect reflection of the greater philosophical theme of Blade Runner. Where's the line between real and artificial?
Oh, you don't like real girls.
This is a sideshow, where special side characters get the attention that they deserve, and today I want to take a closer look at Joy and determine whether her love for Kay was real or not.
I do hope you're satisfied with our product. I love you.
In case you haven't seen the movie in a while, let me give you a quick rundown. Kay, a replicant himself, is sent out by the Los Angeles Police Department to retire rogue replicants. Upon finding evidence that the replicants Deckard and Rachel from the first Blade Runner film had a child, Kay starts to believe that he might be this born replicant because of a wooden horse he recognizes. Kay then decides to seek the truth and finds Deckard, but he's followed by the Wallace Corporation. They abduct Deckard in order to find out how he was able to procreate, but he refuses to tell them anything.
Her eyes were green.
Meanwhile, Kay finds out that he wasn't born after all. See how I've left out Joy entirely so far? It's crazy. Up to this point, right before the climax of the film and after Joy's death, it's not really necessary to pay attention to Joy to understand the plot of the film. But then, this scene happens. The most infamous and important scene of the movie.
You look like a good Joe.
Right here, Kay is confronted with the artificiality of Joy, and understanding this scene determines whether you grasp the entire movie or not. And I don't mean that in a pretentious way. I think what makes this scene great is the fact that you have to truly reflect on it and maybe even watch the movie multiple times to understand it. When it comes to interpreting it, the first impulse you might have would be to say that Kay being confronted with Joy's artificiality makes him realize that their relationship wasn't real. He now understands that Joy is a soulless product of mass consumption, a drug that's supposed to keep lonely people like him in check, and he's therefore able to emancipate himself from his obedience to a system of false promises and illusions.
Dying for the right cause is the most human thing we can do.
This pessimistic interpretation of Joy makes sense. She is a product, she is artificial. But does that really mean that her love to Kay wasn't real? That's the question, not just of the scene, but of Blade Runner as a whole. After all, it's not just Joy that's artificial. Replicants are artificial beings themselves, but that doesn't change the fact that they seem to express real emotions. The line between what's human and what's artificial is already so blurred at the beginning of the first Blade Runner film that it takes sophisticated methods to identify a replicant. There are even replicants that don't know themselves whether they are human or not. The only definable difference left between humans and artificial humans is origin, birth. And the brilliance of Blade Runner 2049 is that even that is challenged. The concept of replicant procreation demolishes the fragile line that is left between what's considered human and artificial.
So what you saw didn't happen.
Kay is so obsessed with finding out the truth because he thinks if he was born, this would be his salvation. It would prove to him that he wasn't just limited to being a soulless vessel carrying out orders, but instead a living being with agency. But salvation doesn't come. Then this scene takes place, and I would argue that Kay doesn't realize that Joy's artificial and therefore their love wasn't real. Instead, he realizes the opposite. Joy, like him, is artificial, but they and the love they shared are nonetheless real. It's the same thing with how Deckard was confronted with Rachel's artificiality just a few scenes prior. Deckard rejected Wallace's Rachel not because she was artificial. His version of Rachel also was artificial. No, he merely rejected her because it wasn't his Rachel. It's not the artificiality per se that made Rachel feel real or fake to him. It's just that this Rachel isn't the Rachel he shared love with. And I think all that can be applied to Kay and the Joy ad. The meaning is that artificial beings can be real, and artificial love can also be real. Joy's love for Kay might be programmed into her, but if you think about it, that's not that much different for how, for example, as a parent, love for your child is programmed into you biologically.
A and C and T and G. The alphabet of you.
All from 4 symbols.
The origin might be artificial, and you can think about that whatever you want, but it's still real. Throughout the movie, Kay and Joy prove countless times that their artificial love is real. Kay gifts Joy the expensive emanator, a present of mobility and independence. Joy hires Mariette to give Kay the ability to feel her, even though it also hurts her to include another woman.
I'm done with you. You can go now.
Most importantly, when Kay flees the apartment, Joy tells him to delete her from the console so that Wallace can't access her memories. Even though it's for his sake, Kay doesn't like that suggestion because it means making Joy mortal. But Joy is willing to give up her immortality to protect Kay. They both repeatedly set aside themselves for one another. And isn't that what loving somebody means? Even in the moment of her death, Joy shows nothing but love for Kay, and I'm certain if she would have been able to help him by sacrificing herself, she would have done it. And it's also clear that Kay deeply cared about her. So whether she's programmed or not doesn't matter. Whether Kay was born or not doesn't matter. Origin is irrelevant. Everything depends on the actions you take and the way you decide to live. That's what Kay realizes before the climax. That's his salvation. And it's the message of the entire franchise. At least in my opinion.